Welcome back to You Asked For It. This week we have a social media inquiry from Emily. Emily writes, when dogs are meeting or recently met, at what point should a person intervene if one growls at the other? Thanks, Emily, for reaching out. I appreciate it. Hopefully this quick little video will help you out. And for those of you here for the first time, You Asked For It is my weekly segment where I answer questions or inquiries from my social media friends, fans, followers. So if you like what you see, check out my channel and feel free to subscribe. Click that bell so you get notified when I upload new content. This is another one of those topics where it's really hard to give specific feedback or advice when I don't really know the dogs, the handlers, the environment, the dog's history, their level of training, etc. But as usual, I'll do my best to offer some feedback. First and foremost, let's talk about growling. Technically, right now, I'm growling at you watching this screen. That's right, growling, it's just a form of communication, and it's only part of the equation when assessing a situation, especially between two dogs in a social interaction. There are a variety of reasons why dogs growl, but other ingredients that are missing that I would need to know: position of the tail, the ears, the posture, what else was going on before the growl, what was the other dog doing, was it reciprocity? There's really a lot to take in and to absorb and to analyze to really get to the root cause. But as usual, we'll kind of stick to some general rules of thumb. Emily didn't mention anything about fighting or sparring or any other kind of conflict, so at face value, this really looks like it's just a form of communication between two dogs. And Emily's specific question was, when should a human intervene? The bottom line is this, is that each household, they have to set their thresholds for escalations in their dog's behavior. Whatever you set those thresholds at in your home, in your situation, that is when you should intervene. And it differs by household, it differs by dogs, it differs by handler. For instance, in my own household, when my dogs play, and I have pits and they love each other, but they play like pits. They're rough, they're tumbly, they're vocal. I mean, they really get into it when they're playing. My threshold for my dog's level of play and vocalization and posturing is a heck of a lot higher than my wife's threshold for her allowing the dogs to play at certain levels. And the dogs pick up on this. Granted, I usually like to have one set of rules in a household, but in my household, obviously my wife is a well-versed handler and trainer in her own right. So it's a little easier in our situation to allow our dogs different sets of thresholds when they're playing in front of my wife or in front of me. I tend to let it go a lot longer and a lot higher as far as escalation goes, but I can also disconnect my dogs very quickly, and they're very reliable with the disconnect commands that I give them, whether it's a leave it or a no or or settle, or I might just resort to obedience commands like come or sit or down. And my wife, she'll let them get going too. She doesn't mind them playing, but she has a threshold much lower than mine, and the dogs, they catch on, they know it, they understand what they can and can't get away with each handler. So in Emily's situation, I obviously would need to know more about what level of escalation this growling is getting to. The sex of the dogs is often helpful as well. Oftentimes the male-female chemistry is a lot easier to allow to, for lack of a better word, escalate into a different form of communication, from posturing to growling to maybe some sparring. The male-female chemistry, it's a little different. Usually times with dogs, females will quote-unquote dominate the males, and the males will readily and willingly submit to any posturing or vocalizations. If there's same-sex conflict, we're having a whole different conversation. So in Emily's case, hopefully the one dog, whatever was going on, whether there was a toy involved or some kind of resource involved, or maybe they were just interacting and the dog that growled and communicated was just letting the other dog know, hey, your energy or your escalation, I'm just not jiving with it. I usually like to let vocalizations and posturing and the dog-on-dog communication, I like to let it go a little further than most people, but again, I'm used to doing this. I'm doing this for 20 some odd years, right? So my comfort level for dogs escalating either behavior, vocalizations, or posturing is probably a lot higher than other people. In Emily's case, I would suggest that you kind of intervene at a threshold that you feel comfortable with. And that may mean that you have to get these dogs on a whole bunch of walks together to establish some camaraderie and doing something together as a family unit. And if the communications or posturing or growling is occurring inside, you may need to reset the structure inside your house. Perhaps having the dogs on leash while they communicate and get to know each other a little better, number one, that'll give you a little more comfort because you have that safety at your disposal being on leash. And generally, I'm not a fan of adding a leash to a situation that is potentially anxious because leashes can oftentimes increase anxiety. But if having a leash on allows the handler to feel safe, that could actually affect some positive change energy-wise in the household. And for that specific situation and encounter between the dogs. And as long as one dog is growling and the other dog is receiving that communication and they're working through it, generally they'll overcome that rather quickly and they'll kind of mesh and bond and figure out who belongs where as far as the pecking order goes. And I know, yeah, some people don't believe dogs are pack animals. Great, that's fine. You don't have to believe dogs are pack animals. I'm kind of on the fence on some of that pack stuff myself. But dogs will assert themselves in different social situations within the family unit. And growling and communication and vocalization is all part of that process. So bottom line, Emily, you need to do what you feel most comfortable with, what your threshold is for their communication. Hopefully it's not escalating. Obviously, if it's escalating, you probably should seek the assistance of a professional trainer or behaviorist. But if they're just posturing, communicating, getting to know each other, those things usually work itself out, especially, like I said, if it's that female-male chemistry, that male will most likely submit to the female and they'll work it out and they'll form a partnership in the household. And when in doubt, walk, 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 walk. Walking is so underrated and undervalued. It's such a great tool to form cohesion between dogs and handlers. It also gets you outside of the environment where the growling or posturing was occurring, and it enables the dogs to do something together without that other stuff. You get them focused on a walk and enjoying the walk and performing for you on a walk, you're that much closer to camaraderie, partnership, and harmony. So in a nutshell, I'm growling at you right now. That's all I'm doing. It's just a form of communication. Obviously, the body language and other aspects of the environment and the situation are things that I just don't know. So when in doubt, opt for safety, opt for comfort, and your threshold for escalation of the dog's behaviors, and work them under that threshold. Well, thanks, Emily. I appreciate you reaching out. I hope this helps, and I will see you guys next time on You Asked For It.